This is the final video I'm making about Fpv Angel because frankly I'm tired of dealing with these losers. Through comments made to me by himself and his followers, I've been getting vibes that I might be dealing with a cult. I'm not saying I know they're a cult, but I do have suspicions. I debunked Fpv Angel's map 100% in a video I made and posted June 14th. Then I further debunked the hell out of his fraudulent map with a follow-up video I made and posted on June 17th. You're looking at Fpv Angel's transverse Mercator flat Earth. His claim is the Earth is an extended plane traveling west, also an extended plane traveling east, and that you can't cross the international dateline traveling west from America to get to countries like Japan, Australia, New Zealand, etc., because they're on the eastern side of his map. The same goes for trying to travel east and cross the international dateline to go from, say, Japan to Los Angeles, because Los Angeles would be on the western side of his map. Fpv Angel says if you cross the international dateline that you'll be stopped by military and told to turn around or else. This is totally idiotic and this map is 100% wrong, and I'll show you why in this video. I also wanted to make note that Fpv Angel says the landmass across the Bering Strait from Alaska is not Russia because Russia's in his extreme east, but it's an unnamed landmass that we're not allowed to travel to with no proof of that whatsoever. This map is ridiculous because ships are constantly crossing the international dateline, and there's overwhelming evidence of this. Let's take a look at some ocean cruises and see how they line up with Fpv Angel's map. This cruise is offered by Carnival Cruises and it's a Trans-Pacific from Seattle, Washington. This is a 23-day cruise. It starts in Seattle, makes several stops, and ends up in Sydney, Australia. And yes, it crosses the international dateline. Let's go to ports.com, which Fpv Angel tries to use as proof that ships aren't crossing the international dateline. If you'll notice in the left-hand corner of this site that there is a globe, which was conveniently cut out when Fpv was using this site for examples. First, I want to say that each example will have the speed of 20 knots because that's the average speed for a cruise ship. I proved this in my previous video for any doubters. Ports.com is showing Seattle to Sydney traveling east and takes 41 days. This is a 23-day cruise with many stops in between. This cruise proves Fpv Angel's map is wrong. This cruise from Celebrity Cruises is 18 nights, Tahiti, Moorea, and New Zealand. This cruise starts out in Honolulu, Hawaii, and ends in Sydney, Australia, making stops in between. And yes, this cruise crosses the international dateline. On ports.com, it shows this cruise traveling east from Honolulu to Sydney, and it would take 41.9 days. This is an 18-night cruise, making Fpv's map 100% wrong. This is the Tahitian Treasure Cruise from Celebrity Cruises, and it's a 17-night cruise. It starts out in Honolulu, Hawaii, and ends in Sydney, Australia, making stops in between. And yes, this cruise crosses the international dateline. On ports.com, traveling east from Honolulu to Sydney, it would take 41.9 days. This is a 17-night cruise. Fpv's model is definitely 100% wrong. This cruise available from Celebrity Cruises is the Bering Sea and Japan cruise and is 14 nights. It starts out in Vancouver, British Columbia, then heads up to Ketchikan, Alaska, and ends up in Tokyo, Japan, making stops in between. And yes, this cruise crosses the international date line. On ports.com, we see the cruise head up to Ketchikan, Alaska, then from there travels east to Tokyo, Japan in 46.1 days. This is a 14-night cruise, a far cry from 46.1 days. Again, this shows how ridiculous FPV Angel's map is. It's totally wrong. This cruise is available from Norwegian. The cruise is 14 days and it's called South Pacific, Fiji, Bora Bora, and Maria to Sydney from Papeete, Tahiti, French Polynesia. And yes, it crosses the international date line. On ports.com, it shows the cruise starting in Papeete, heading east and ending in Sydney. The cruise is for 14 days, but on FPV's example, it would take 35.6 days traveling east. This is wrong, wrong, wrong. Here's another cruise from Norwegian. This is a Trans-Pacific Alaska, Japan, and Russia to Seward from Tokyo, Japan, and makes several stops along the way. It starts in Tokyo, Japan, and ends in Seward, Alaska. It's a 12-day cruise. And yes, it crosses the international date line. On ports.com, we see the port start as Tokyo, Japan, and destination Port Seward, and shows the cruise going east, and it takes 47.6 days. This is only a 12-day cruise, showing that FPV Angel's transverse Mercator map is nothing but an embarrassment. This is a 19-night Trans-Pacific cruise available from Royal Caribbean. This cruise begins in Honolulu, Hawaii, and ends in Sydney, Australia, making stops in between. And yes, this cruise crosses the international date line. On ports.com, this cruise starts in Honolulu, Hawaii, travels east, and ends in Sydney, Australia in 41.9 days. This is supposed to be only a 19-night cruise, proving without a doubt one more time that FPV Angel's flat earth model is 100% wrong. This is a cruise available from Viking called North Pacific Passage, and it lasts for 23 days. We even have a map showing the route of the cruise. It starts in Tokyo, Japan, and ends in Vancouver, British Columbia, making a lot of stops in between. And yes, this cruise crosses the international date line. On ports.com, this cruise starts in Tokyo, Japan, travels east, and ends in Vancouver in 45.1 days. This cruise only lasts for 23 days, making FPV Angel's map wrong yet again. I've just shown you 8 different cruises that completely debunk FPV Angel's map. There's many more cruises that do as well. Here's another little tidbit about the international dateline. The domain of the Golden Dragon is an unofficial but highly coveted award of the United States Navy and the United States Coast Guard. It's given to crew members of ships which cross the international dateline. You enter the Dragon's empire when you cross the international dateline by sailing west, where Asian nations celebrate the power of the dragon. With the extensive Navy operations in the Far East since and before World War II, this passage has become so common that few initiation ceremonies are actually held, but the certificate decorated with Chinese-style dragon is still given out. It's also awarded to dependents traveling together with their military sponsor. Here we have an example of a Domain of the Golden Dragon award uploaded by a naval veteran. And here we have the website for the U.S. Government Accountability Office. And this is a decision concerning compensation for naval employees who cross the international date line. Here's the highlights. The Navy requested a decision concerning the appropriate pay for 7 employees who worked an extra day due to crossing the international date line. The employees contended that the Navy did not pay them properly because they crossed the international date line in the westward direction on a weekend. GAO held that the Navy, one, determined that all but one employee lost a workday when traveling westward across the date line and properly compensated them for 8 hours of basic pay and 2 overtime hours for the lost workday, and two, incorrectly failed to compensate the seventh employee who lost a non-workday in his travel west and gained a workday traveling east. Accordingly, the Navy should pay the seventh employee 10 hours of overtime for the non-work day he lost. Okay, from the GAO site, this is from the Comptroller General of the United States, and it was his decision in the matter of effects on pay of crossing the international date line. And this is part of the first page of a 5-page PDF file that you can download from the website. And if you'll look at where it says Digest, number 1, in accordance with the general rule cited in 48 Comp Gen 233, 1968, 6 Navy employees who crossed the international date line in both directions while traveling between Hawaii and Guam. Again, while traveling between Hawaii and Guam. Now, the last time I checked, Hawaii and Guam were on different sides of the international date line. To get to Guam from Hawaii, you have to go west and cross the international date line. And to get to Hawaii, coming from Guam, you have to cross the international date line going east. So read it and weep, FPV Angel, because this is just more fact that proves that your map is 100% totally wrong. And of course, FPV Angel, we can't forget that RIMPAC 2022 is officially going on right now in Hawaii. RIMPAC forces will exercise a wide range of capabilities, projecting the inherent flexibility of maritime forces and helping to promote a free and open Indo-Pacific. Here's a list of the countries participating in RIMPAC in Hawaii. As you can see, there are several Asian countries participating. Now, according to your map, FPV Angel, why would Asian countries even participate in this? They would be far away from the Pacific Ocean on the far east side of your map. They would have to travel west many nautical miles just to get there. RIMPAC promotes a free and open Indo-Pacific. For those that don't know what the Indo-Pacific is, it's a biogeographic region of Earth's seas comprising the tropical waters of the Indian Ocean, the Western and Central Pacific Ocean, and the seas connecting the two in the general area of Indonesia. According to your map, the Indo-Pacific doesn't even exist. You're a joke, FPV Angel. Throw that fucking map of yours in the trash. I've been called a glober, an idiot, a moron, a copy and paster, told I can't be trusted because I didn't show my face, and told that I have an agenda simply because I've used facts to debunk FPV Angel's map. I'm definitely not a glober because I don't think for 1 second that we live on a magical spinning space ball. Whether I show my face or not doesn't matter, and I could give a shit less if someone says they can't trust me. I know people whose faces I see all of the time, and I wouldn't trust them any farther than I can throw their fat asses. As far as me having an agenda, yes, I do have an agenda. I'm looking for the truth if it can be found. I'm not doing this for money. I've never asked for any donations, and I'm damn sure not doing it for fame because I'm not famous. I've exposed FPV Angel with absolute facts because he's nothing but a liar and purposely deceiving people, and it needs to stop. Take a look at this. This is a screenshot from his live stream. He runs live streams 24/7. Notice there's only 8 people watching. Now, this guy supposedly has over 23,000 subscribers, yet you can go into his live streams any time of the day or night, and that's all you'll find watching is between 4 to 8 people. There's something really strange about that. I just hope these followers of FPV Angel will wake up and realize this man is a fraud and distance themselves from him. Like I said earlier, I get vibes that tell me this might be a cult, but I'm not formally making that accusation. So this is my last video about FPV Angel, and it puts the final nails in his coffin. The transverse Mercator flat earth map is once and for all dead. Long live the truth.